Now with the Vice President for Union Development. So can I please ask Laurence Pullan and Luke Townsend to come up to the stage, please. Just to note, so everybody knows, Sam Hale withdrew from this position earlier on today. So it's now just Laurence and Luke standing. And Laurence is up first.
Evening all. I'm Laurence Pullan and I'm running to be your next Vice President, Union Development. I'm a third-year English student and was previously President of Pendle College, and I'm currently Cross-Campus Officer for Socials. Now, I think you can split the job of Union Development into four broad topics: finance, democracy and activism, commercial services and socials. In terms of finance, we need to simplify the process of applying for funding for our officers. We need to try and centralise funds to make it easier for officers to access funds for their initiatives, because it's these initiatives that benefit our membership. We should also advertise what funding officers can get and from where. We should look to provide support to officers, clubs and societies who need help with finances by providing drop-in sessions or facilitating extra financial training sessions throughout the year. We should let the everyday student know where money in the union is spent. We need a visible campaign to let students know that money they spend in the union goes straight back into support, opportunities and events for you. In terms of the shops, Sugar House and Purple Card, this year the union trialled small focus groups and have made an impact. I want to extend these focus groups and try and open them up to the everyday student to find out what you want to receive from your services. I also think it's important to source local produce and support local businesses to reduce our carbon footprint and make a positive difference in our community. We also need to build on the success of live acts in the Sugar House, and I'm keen to get consistently good acts into our student venue. We need to be aware as a union that there are students that live on campus all year round. Internationals and postgrads, for example, may live on campus when the majority of students leave for term breaks, and we need to ensure we still provide a quality service. In terms of social activity, I'm currently chair of a social events group, which will be relevant to the VP Union Development role, because I would be ultimately responsible for socials next year. I'd love to get a big headline act for Intro Week in County Quad during Freshers Week, where all colleges could attend. It would be a fantastic statement of the union to show what we're capable of. I want the everyday student to help decide what socials they want to see. I want to encourage members of other subcommittees, clubs, societies, associations and underrepresented groups like postgrads and internationals to discuss and share ideas. Why can't colleges in the LGBTQ star have a shared social, for example? Sharing best practice is the best way to make social aspects of the union a success to all our students. The PG board has undergone a fairly successful transition from the PGSA. I want to work with the PG board to get involved with more initiatives. Southwest Fest, which the PG board helped finance, was a success, as was LUGrad's Got Talent, and I would work with the board to ensure that the social atmosphere in Grad College continues to thrive. In terms of democracy and activism, I'm desperate to make democracy more accessible. I want to work with the relevant subcommittees, like Academic Council, to look at ways to make it easier for students to get involved. We should also utilise social media and let people know what's actually happening in our union. We should use Squeak to advertise times and dates of meetings and make use of Facebook and Twitter so that students are exposed to politics in action. I would work closer with the LUSU councillors to ensure that they proactively engage with the student body about relevant issues, to encourage the everyday student to have an impact on the union, critically and cooperatively. I also want to develop the newly established college mentor system, where a full-time officer supports a particular college. Now, full-time officer support this year has been good, but it can be improved. I attended the NUS Union Development Zone Conference in November, and I've also attended Demo 2012, which showed me that as a union we can cultivate activists and make a difference, not just within our union, but nationally. I want to launch an initiative called Lancaster Leaders. I want to empower the everyday student to pick an issue, build their own campaign around it, and have the ability to make change and create an impact. I want to make our students aware that they can be political activists and they can contribute towards making a difference. They don't just have to be a student officer to do this. So, if you want somebody with knowledge and experience and passion by the bucket load, who can lead from the front, and strive to provide a voice for the students in our membership, then I would urge you all to vote Laurence Pullan, number 1 for Vice President Union Development. Thank you very much.
And now we have Luke Townsend. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Hello, I'm Luke Townsend. I'm running to be your next Vice President for Union Development. I believe that I'm the person to make a real difference and a real progress within LUSU. With experience in several aspects of university life, I've gained knowledge that could benefit the Students' Union in many ways. So what is union development? I believe it is a role where we can look at the direction of the union in a financial, collaborative, political and social level. For me, the main thing I want to see change within LUSU is the financial structure. At the moment, we have underspending JCRs, societies and offices that refuse funding, even if the money is there, but in a different pot, and a lack of accountability of what the union is spending. LUSU need a transparent and accessible finance system that is easy for all students to use and to understand. Let me expand on how these issues can be addressed. Firstly, we can have an online and interactive accountability of finance. It shouldn't be an issue with the current LUSU website that's, it's a good resource that we have. This could not only just be implemented for LUSU centrally, but also JCRs, societies and sports teams. Secondly, an easier way to transfer money from one pot to another. This would make funding easier and the money can be spent on better things. Thirdly, a current and easy way to make sure treasurers are making the most of their money, including what current deals are accessible and seeing if a bulk buy for several entities of the union is possible. Also, better training for treasurers and other officers so they are taught how to successfully budget, not just how to fill out forms. Another issue for me is resource. I would like to make a change to the services provided currently at LUSU, including looking at the new ideas and deals for the shops, which could incorporate local businesses, which could drive down prices. At the end of the day, most of us are skin. I'd also look at other services like LUSU Living and how this can be improved, again, using local business. Sugar House is another issue for me, looking at how other student unions work, such as Warwick and Loughborough. LUSU has many volunteers that really make this university outstanding. Time is so precious and can make a much greater difference than any amount of money or resource can. We need to use the time that is so generously given to create a greater impact to enhance the student life at Lancaster University. To help create a platform where societies, sports teams, JCRs and other groups can collaborate, communicate and decide to work together with the help of LUSU, I trust would benefit the majority of students. To have a better schedule of events would help officers to better decide when to hold events. Timing is so important, so let's organise. Some of the other things I want to look at include cross-campus events, student training to have ongoing and drop-in sessions, democracy to open up meetings, to perhaps look at putting online general meetings, other meetings, subcommittees, and to create a neutral political stance, but to still spark political debate within our union. So to round up, vote Luke Townsend for union development if you want to see progress made to utilise the powerful attributes we have at our university. If our university is working to be one of the best around, then so should our students' union. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. Right, questions. Yeah, we'll go to Steve first.
This question is to both candidates. Obviously, there are many different aspects of the role, and a lot of them all deal with working with the JCRs and the postgraduate board. how do you intend to make sure you meet the balance between doing your roles and your duties and then not interfering with college or PG board autonomy?
Can that go to Laurence first, please?
Yeah, Steve, I'd make use of the mentor system. So there wasn't just me as an FTO overseeing what happens in JCRs and the postgraduate board. I think, you know, I touched on it that the support's been good. I think you're a good example. You aren't a dictator and overseer of the JCR that you look after, but it's useful for them to, you know that they can use you for any information, resources, help and advice. I think it is important to strike the balance, but officers need to know that you're there to help them. They don't want to just think that, you know, you want to come across as approachable. You know, so we should just make it aware that we are there as a resource to be used if and when officers see fit.
Thank you. Luke?
I believe that in this role, we're looking at trying to get the JCRs to work together. And so our role as Union Development Officer would be looking at getting the JCRs to meet together, getting a PG board to meet with them. It's not about me saying, do this, do that. It's about trying to find a platform where JCRs, not just JCRs, but other societies, sports teams can work together.
Thank you. There's a lady there in a red cardigan. Sorry, I don't know your name.
Through that gap.
Hiya, this question's for Laurence. You mentioned in your hust that you wanted to collaborate between LGBTQ and other bodies. How exactly do you plan to do that?
Just communicate. Like if you had a social to Canal Street the other week, if say you approach a JCR and say, hey, we're going to Manchester, do you fancy coming along? It's just going to be sort of a mutual agreement between, you know, your association, for example, and a college. It helps in terms of financial risk more than anything, that sometimes collaborative events do work. And actually, it's nice. It's a nice networking opportunity more than anything, to be able to socialise with different people rather than just being, you know, kept to either your one association or club or society or college. Just provides more opportunities, essentially.
Okay, thank you. There was a hand far at the back. I can't see. Simi, sorry, yeah. And then we'll go to Liz and then Erica. And then Christy.
Hello. Okay. This is to both of you. What do you think you could improve upon Libby's role this year? And more importantly, why do you think that you would be the best person for it?
Okay, thank you. And can that go to Luke first, please?
Okay, so I think this is a completely different role from the Events and Democracy current role. This is really looking at the direction of where LUSU is going. This is looking at, you know, completely changing the face of LUSU, making it accessible to the greater student body. In terms of how I could change, I think in my experience involves several aspects of university life, including JCR, sports team, exec and societies. Ever since I've been at Lancaster University, I've had a passion to get involved, and Lancaster has developed me so much as a person. I'd just love to give something back to the university.
Thank you. And Laurence?
Okay, my response is twofold. First of all, I think democracy, you've done well. You know, voting turnout for JCR elections was good this year. I don't think the campaign was particularly inspiring. I think first years would have been confused with just seeing pictures of cows, you know, posters everywhere. That needs to be improved on for next year. But also in terms of, I'd like to empower the everyday student more. You know, like I said, I want to make sure that students know that they can make a difference. They don't just have to be officers. You know, they can, you know, if we provide as a union students the tools to make their own campaigns, to build, you know, initiatives for their causes, you know, that makes us as a union much more proactive, much more of an active union in terms of, you know, political issues and things like that. So, yeah, that's what I'd probably improve on.
Thank you. And we're going to Liz next. And then Erica.
I think my question's pretty much been answered. I was just going to congratulate both of you for putting yourselves up to run for a brand new role. I think that's really exciting, and basically what I really wanted to ask you guys is, having a look at the what comes under the remit, what most interested you about the role, and what kind of most excites you about what you'll be doing potentially over the next year?
Luke?
Okay, for me the role was pretty much a lot to do with the finance side. When I was on a JC, I was a treasurer, and I just found that there wasn't that much support for what I could do. In terms of budget, a lot of it was left down to me, and working with the finance team directly wasn't always the best, so we underspent by quite a lot of money, even though I was told there was no money left in the account. So that definitely is, my main reason for running. But I do like the other aspects of the job, and want to get involved with the democracy side and the social side as well. Just quickly on socials, I've been a social sec for 2 years, so I think that will give me the skills to develop socials that can be utilised across the campus.
Thank you. And Laurence?
I'd say definitely the commercial services side of things, Liz. It excites me that the role, is a non-executive director of the services. It gives me a chance to have an input on what I want to see from my services in the union, but also gives me a chance to be a mouthpiece for the average student and get, and represent them on what they want to see in their services. I've already had people going around speaking to people, say, hey, I want international foods in LUSU shop. I want a bigger alcohol selection. I want a bigger frozen selection, things like that. It excites me that in this position, I could potentially have the power to actually make these differences, to provide, what the students actually want from their services. Simply, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. To Erica now, sorry.
Good evening. I'm in terms of the new role as Union Development Vice President, I'm interested in your thoughts about how it is that we strengthen the skills of everybody who volunteers and participates in the union, because one of the things I've been amazingly impressed with in my engagement with LUSU is the depth and diversity of the people who are involved in the student union, and that huge number. But how is it that we build the skills of the people who get involved because they care about their education, and link them with community campaigns and link them with other things that are going on in the broader community, so that we do the relational campaigning that NUS is talking about. We make sure that education is an issue in the next election, and we really reach out and engage with the issues that happen beyond campus that affect campus, and also make sure that the issues that are real for us are important to our community. Thank you.
Can that go to Laurence first, please?
Yeah, Erica, I'm glad you've acknowledged that officership works. People get involved because they love the union. It's a good thing. It's not all about the CV. It's a way of life being a student officer, and it's good that you've acknowledged that. You'd have to have a campaign. Work with the new communications and campaigns officer. It's good that the restructure has acknowledged that there needs to be more emphasis on campaigning. We should be a campaigning union, not just in our little bubble of the union, but also, on a university level, on a national level as well. So you need a joint campaign as a team. Go out and speak to students, get them involved. Mobilise your officers, get them to go and speak to students in their college, for example. Word of mouth is the way forward. And it's good that the current restructure has acknowledged that there has to be more emphasis on campaigning.
Thank you. And to Luke?
I believe it's a human desire to give. No one wants to ask for help. They want to give something. And I believe that's why we have so many officers at Lancaster University ready to give and ready to volunteer. But to get a reach better, I want to see a much greater turnout of voters. At the moment we have 34%, which is outstanding in its own right. But why can't that be 66%, 70%, 100%? What we need to do is get talking to students individually on a one-to-one basis. Introduce all students to the idea of that LUSU is for them. It's not just something high in the sky that no one knows about. There's a lot of students that don't even know who their JCR
10
is.
seconds.
So yeah, just getting students involved on a wider basis.
Okay, thank you. Christy, next question, right-hand corner.
My question is for both candidates. I'm new to the HCR this year, and at times I've struggled to find the balance with my degree because I have quite an intensive degree. What is your opinion on offering further support after the training from what week, or do you feel it's a learning experience that the student needs to learn from themselves?
And can that go to Luke first, please?
Yeah, my idea to involve JCRs more with training is to have more frequent sessions, so perhaps you can drop in with, say you're a treasurer, for example, then have a session with all the other treasurers and myself or another FTO that's and look at what you're doing, the direction it's going in. It doesn't just have to be a meeting face to face. You know, setting up Facebook groups, using social media, but the one-to-one aspect works well. I know you do have a lot on with your degree, but I believe that you do have enough time. If you do want to be on a JCR and do want to make a difference, you can find time.
Okay, thank you. And then to Laurence, please.
Brill. I'd introduce, we might as well go crazy. We've got WOC and we've got BOC. We might as well have SOC as well, which is a summer officer conversation. Why can't we have the odd drop-in session for our cross-campus officers that will come into office the same time as the FTOs to work together to set the vision for the union? Because CCOs can be utilised, you know, to help officers, but not just officers. You know, our current structure works well, but cross-campus officers can be there to help with clubs, societies, associations, things like that. And also, why can't we help provide, you know, extra workshops, extra drop-in sessions, you know, as and when people see fit? If there's a demand there for help, for extra help, we have the resources there to facilitate it. It's all about two-way communication, though. We can extend our arm, and you can grab it. Yeah, so I'd utilise our officers in more senior places more, so that's cross-campus officers as well as full-time officers.
Thank you. I'm now going to take a question from Twitter. This has been directed at Laurence, as she said that you mentioned it in your speech, but Luke, if you have anything to say on the matter, then you can do. How exactly do you plan on reducing the uni's carbon footprint?
Okay, I get in touch with local businesses, for example. Is the Keep Cups as well are a great idea that have been introducing Go Green Week. It costs about 20p for one of the one-use cardboard cups. We saw there was a need to, you know, be more greenly proactive about it, and we went and done it. You've got to contact local businesses. You've got to look at saving fuel costs, for example, transportation, and also by helping local businesses, you're helping the local community. It's good as a union that we can give as well as receive. So yeah, just get in touch with local businesses that can provide resources for our union that the students want.
Thank you. Luke, do you have anything to say?
Just quickly, for me, we've just spent a lot of money on a brand new underpass to facilitate buses. Why aren't there more cyclists? Why isn't more money being spent on cycle paths, on facilitating transport to university? We have a lot of students that live in town, so why can't we look at that carbon footprint there? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question is from Steve.
Okay, this question is for both candidates. One thing I think is really important about democracy is thinking wider than just our union elections and about local and national elections as well. What will you do to get Lancaster students ready for 2015?
Can that question go to Luke first, please?
Okay. So again, I think it comes down to having a campaign and getting students to realise what's happening and what LUSU is doing. Again, it comes down to not enough students are engaged with what's happening. So campaigning, getting the word out, speaking to people, taking surveys in the square, just a few ideas. So.
Thank you. And Laurence?
Okay, we can start by mobilising the current student political parties that exist. They affiliate with these parties because they're passionate about them. So why not use that? Why not channel that and use it to our advantage? Joint collaborative events, for example, can work really well. We can use existing student political parties to inform the wider student body about what on a national level political parties are doing. I think that's what you've definitely got to look at. These political students in these parties are very passionate about their beliefs, so we've got to use them.
Thank you. Next question is from Charlie Edwards.
Hi guys, you've done very well so far. I think obviously union development is a massive part of it, as is university development is a big part of both your role and as a role as an ambassador of the Students' Union of Lancaster. My question is simply this: the reason why I came to Lancaster was because of the collegiate system. What do you think of it? What do you like about it? And what would you do to make sure that it is entrenched in Lancaster University for generations to come?
That's to Laurence first, please.
I absolutely frigging love the college system. It's the best thing about Lancaster Uni. We've got to preserve it, and if there's students out there as passionate as me about it, then they are in absolutely no doubt. Like they are going to remain for for as long as students that love the college system remain. Some university bodies might have plans for the future that they might want to slowly get rid of them, but shove their ideas, because as a union, as students, we love the collegiate system in general, and we're going to fight for it because it's one of the best things that Lancaster Uni's got going for it, in my opinion.
Thank you. And to Luke?
Yeah, I completely agree. The college system is probably one of the main reasons I came to Lancaster University. It's absolutely brilliant. There's no reason for us to get rid of it. Some of my best friends are in my college rather than on my course or part of sports societies. And I just think it's a great way to get to know people, and that's a big part of university. So,
thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Oh, yep, Erica.
At the risk of making myself very, very unpopular, I'm not necessarily convinced that all colleges are in fact equal. And if you'd like mine, you can have it. I think there are some I think there's some work that needs to be done about what is the role and purpose of graduate college and how does it engage the students that are members of it. I think it is by far the largest college at the university. The majority of its students don't live on campus. In fact, any number of them probably live overseas. And I think there are, there's a moment where undergraduates are told that this is the college and your identity and your connection with the university for life, but the moment you show up as a master's student, you're moved out of your undergraduate college and down and into graduate college. It's perplexing as to why the facilities for graduate college are at the point furthest from any of the classrooms that any of the graduates or offices that any of the graduates might be in. And so, while I fully respect the undergraduates' love of their college system, please be aware that there's some critical thought that might be needed to graduate college, and I'd be interested to hear whether you've done any. Thank you.
Okay, that's to Luke first.
So for me, it'd be to look at a PG board. I mean, it currently is very academic. I think there's 8 academic officers. I think it's 1 for each facility and doubled or something. But so yeah, to look at how that can be changed, because at JCRs we have publicity, communications, socials. Why isn't our PG board more like that? I think a lot of people go, oh, as soon as you're a graduate, then you just stop having fun and you start working all the time. surely, I mean, a PG board is great and what it does is great, but to implement other officers that can cater for greater needs. And again, we can look at linking the PG board to do joint events with other JCRs and other societies.
Thank you. And Laurence?
Ooh, good question, Erica. Right. A massively radical idea would just be to abolish grad college and integrate graduates into undergraduate colleges to make them feel more of, to feel better connections in terms of community with the students of Lancaster. That is a radical idea. Some grads would absolutely love it. Some may not. The thing is, graduates, the majority, come to, to get degree, to get acknowledged in terms of further study and things like that. It's a different culture almost. They come to have, obviously they come to have fun, but their main reason for coming to study, they spend an absolute fortune for it, is to get, further qualifications. So you need to approach it with caution. I personally would...
10 seconds.
If I was a mad professor in charge of the uni, I'd abolish grad college and put them in with undergraduates, but you've got to be careful, Erica. Like, you've made great leaps and bounds from the PGSA, and we need mobile students such as yourself to keep the PG board going. Thank you.
Right, are there any more questions from the floor? Yep. Last one. I don't know. We'll see.
Thank you. It's great to see a lot of students here tonight, but I'm quite confident in saying there is not one single person or representative from the university. How would you ensure that the issues that have been raised tonight and the issues that are going to be raised next year, whilst one of you is going to be Vice President, will be brought up to the university? Because my experience is the university are not always receptive to what we say. So how would you deal with that?
That's to Laurence first, please.
Cheers for the question, Paul. I've got this cliched line that I've been saying for a while. It's one thing having student officers speak for students. It's another thing entirely having the students speak for themselves. We need to mobilise our officers to make the average student aware of issues affecting the university, and we need to make sure that the average student, the everyday student, knows that they can actually make a difference and have a big impact if they react en masse to a decision. We saw last year with the BPR, that was a big decision, that was a contentious issue. The students reacted to it en masse and showed, hey, actually, the everyday student can make a difference. We need to be able to instill that into the everyday student so that they know that they can make the difference.
Thank you, and to Luke.
So I'd look at having a better relationship with the university. I think a lot of people see a divide between the Students' Union and the university. So to create and build a relationship, a better relationship with the university will be high on my agenda. And for this to include perhaps workshops for students that can be put on by LUSU officers but are for academic issues and university issues.
Thank you very much. Right, we have got time for one more question if you'd like to ask. Yep, Jack.
The role of union development implies a longer-term view of the union than perhaps it's traditionally had. What would your long-term aims for LUSU be over the next 5 years?
That's to Luke first, please.
Okay, so I think a big thing at the moment we're looking at is a new building, and for this to be good enough for the future student union and for future students to perhaps not just include officers but include spaces and environments where students can come and you can have workshops. It doesn't just have to be in a seminar room.
Yeah. And Laurence?
Yeah. Okay, looking at the LUSU strategic plan, like Luke said, the new building, obviously we'll have to make sure that everything gets moved over there. Everything, this year, we retain a consistent service despite, obviously, the practicalities of physically moving into a different building, into a new environment, things like that. The strategic plan also mentioned things like, increasing PG representation, making sure they feel more engaged and involved in the union, and also just improving the overall student experience. That's something that doesn't have a time limit on. That is something that will last for years and years. And we need to look at maintaining the quality experience that our students receive in the union for years to come. We need to make sure that the PG board increases its engagement with the union. It has over the past year from the PGSA. And we need to make sure that the new building is fit for purpose.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, that concludes the Vice President Union Development. If we can have a round of applause for the candidates, please.